Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make some Passover decor for the upcoming feast. We're going to work on this little blood on the doorpost display that I made here. This will be part one of a two-part series. In the second video, I'll be showing you how to make two other displays. And this is a Dollar Tree DIY, so most of the supplies that I used for this project came from the dollar store. And I will also be showing you how to make the shelf that this display is sitting on. So if you would like to see this project from start to finish, just stay tuned. Alright guys, welcome back. Thanks so much for joining me today. So what I'm going to be showing you is this shelf that I made with 3 of the little Sterilite crates from the Dollar Tree. And pretty much what I wanted to do was make a shelf for myself that I could use for all of the biblical feasts. So my plan is to have this shelf out all year round, but specifically for the feasts I'm going to be making little displays to put in each compartment of the shelf. So I started out with these white Sterilite crates and I just went ahead and spray painted them charcoal gray. Now I'm not sure if I just got the wrong kind of spray paint, but I found that this paint actually was really easy to chip off of these crates as I was working on them later. So in the future, what I would probably do is just buy some of the black Sterilite crates and just cover up the brand name with spray paint rather than spray painting the whole thing. But it's just a learning process. Now I had footage of myself attaching these all together after I had them spray painted, and I don't know what happened to that footage. Surprise, surprise, this is the bane of my existence. So I went ahead and just took these other crates that I had to show you guys where you'll connect them, and I used E6000 and hot glue to connect them. And then at the very end, after they were dry, I added 2 little zip ties in a couple spots, and I'll show you where those are later. For the insides of my crates, I really struggled with finding the right material to cover them with. I tried peel and stick tiles, I tried peel and stick shelf paper, I even cut up some placemats from the Dollar Tree, and nothing ever looked right. What I realized is that all I needed was some black fabric. So after a whole bunch of trial and error, I got this Waverly black fabric, and I just went ahead and started cutting it up to fit inside of my crates and just line 3 of the sides of the inside of my crate. And the reason I only covered 3 sides is because I want these holes on the top of my crates to be open, because I plan to put LED lights through those holes at the very end. So I just continued measuring my fabric. One thing I will recommend is getting one of these handy little circular fabric cutters. It looks like a pizza cutter. This is obviously because it really helps with cutting a straight line. Every time I tried to use those scissors, my lines were diagonal, so I went ahead and got one of those cutters and it made my life a lot easier. One thing I want to let you guys know is that you don't have to use crates for your shelf. You can build a shelf out of wood, you can buy a shelf, you don't even have to use a shelf at all. If you just want to make these displays to put around the house, you can do that as well. So I lined the inside of my crates with E6000. I was originally going to use hot glue, and then I realized that that just dries too quickly, and if I needed to move my fabric around and get any wrinkles out of it, the hot glue wouldn't really serve that purpose very well. So I went ahead and used the E6000 for this, and I just lined the edges and I did a few little drops in the middle like you can see here. And then I just carefully laid out my fabric pieces and pressed them down and smoothed them out. So as you can see, that's what the back pieces look like. Those are where I put my zip ties, and I did spray paint them. You don't have to if you don't want to. I just like the continuity of them being spray painted the same as the rest of the crates. So I'm just showing you how I lined the middle shelf. I did the other 2 off camera, and this was pretty easy. I just started with one edge, got it smooth on the side there, then I flipped it down so that gravity could kind of help my fabric fall a little bit naturally where it needed to, and I just let the fabric kind of follow the crate, and this is what it looks like. So to hang my shelf, I went ahead and put up a few of these little sticky hooks that I got with some vacuum sealer bags. You can probably use hooks from the Dollar Tree. Just make sure that they're not going to rip your paint off. These hooks are really nice. They come off easily. They won't take the paint down, and they're nice and sturdy. So as you can see, this is my shelf. I will be getting some fray check from the store. I know you can probably see those little frayed edges sticking out. I just didn't have time to do that before I filmed this for you guys. One final touch I put on my shelf was just adding some of these little LED string lights from the Dollar Tree. With these, I did have to take off the little plastic pieces to pull the whole string through that first hole. What's really cool about these lights is there's 10 on the string, and there's actually 10 little holes to push them through on this crate, so it actually ended up being perfect. With the leaves, I did put those back onto the lights once they were inside. And then with the other two sides of this shelf, I just went ahead and left those lights without any of the plastic pieces on them. My other options were butterflies and flowers, and I didn't really think either of those went with the theme. But I thought the leaves were nice for my Passover shelf. I thought maybe they would just add a little bit of a different splash of color into this middle shelf here. And now we're going to move on to our doorpost display. To make my door, I'm going to use a few of the slats from these little Dollar Tree pallets, and I'm going to use this little handheld hacksaw to cut them off. And I'm just going to speed through this process for you. So I got 3 of these end pieces cut off for myself, and then I went ahead and glued them together with just some simple super glue gel from the Dollar Tree. You can use wood glue if you prefer. I just kind of wanted to do this project quickly and have things dry fast, so the super glue gel seemed like the right way to go. One thing I did realize is that you want to stain your wood before you glue it, because sometimes, and thankfully this wasn't the case with my glue, but sometimes you'll use a glue that if you get it on the outsides of your wood where you're staining, sometimes the stain won't take to that area. So just for future reference, guys, stain your wood pieces before you glue them together. Also, if you prefer not to have to saw anything, or if you're doing this project with kids, you can absolutely make this door using other items. You can get the regular craft sticks, like the little tongue depressors. Really, any kind of wood pieces you can use to make your door, so you don't have to do it my way. I just looked at these pallets when I was at the store, and I thought they would make a perfect door. So once those were dry, I went ahead and gave them a good sanding on the bottom just to make sure that they were all even with each other. And so now we're going to build our doorposts. And again, you can use any items you would like. Another thing that would probably work really well for this is the Jenga pieces that they have at the Dollar Tree. I just really like these little wood blocks, and I've been wanting to find a reason to use them. And I thought that they would make a really cool look, almost like that old stone look that kind of all of us are familiar with when we think of artistic depictions of people putting blood on their doorposts. So I just thought that these were kind of appropriate to give that kind of a vibe to the whole piece. But you can use different items if you prefer. And so once we have all of our blocks laid out, we know how many we'll need. I'm just going to go ahead and glue them together. I have one of those tongue depressor craft sticks, as you can see, and I'm using that to help keep these all in line with each other. And again, I'm just using the super glue gel because I wanted this to go quickly. Again, if you're doing this project with kids, you can use different kinds of glue, different ways to do this that are a little bit more kid friendly, but this is what worked for me because I was in a hurry. So once all my pieces were together, I went ahead and stained them, and like I said, I should have stained all of these before I glued them together, but live and learn. I got them stained. They did look nice. The areas where I had a little glue spillage over into the front of my door didn't take the stain as well as the rest, but I thought it still came out looking great, so I'm not too worried about my mistake there. I wanted my doorpost to be a little bit darker than my door, just so that the door would stand out a little more. So I did 2 coats of stain on my doorposts. Again, you can stain this however you want. If you're making this with kids, they can paint it. If you don't have regular stain, you can use coffee or turmeric to make homemade stains. You can even take some acrylic paints and mix them with some water and make a stain. So you have a lot of options here. So now that our door is stained or otherwise painted, I'm going to go ahead and drill some holes in here for the handle that I'm going to make in a little bit. And I'm just doing this so that I don't have to worry about drilling it later when the piece is all together. Once I've got those holes there, I'm going to go ahead and glue my doorposts on. And I used a few drops of Gorilla Glue along with just a few drops of hot glue. The Gorilla Glue I wanted to use for it to seep into the wood a little bit better than the hot glue would. And the hot glue I used because I knew that some of these lines weren't going to be perfectly straight and there were going to be a few gaps here and there. And I knew the super glue would do a good job of filling in those gaps, but I just used little tiny dots of each. And then I filled in some of the crevices here on the back, and I took a little piece of wire to just kind of smooth it out. And again, you can use wood glue if you're doing this with kids. You can use a safer kind of glue. I just really was in a hurry to see this product finished, and so I was using the glues that would dry the fastest for me. All right, then I'm just going to turn it over and fill in some of the gaps from the back. So now I'm going to start making the little wire handle and braces for my door. And these are just my wire elements for this piece because my channel is DI wire wrapped themed. So I really wanted to just add a little bit of wire to the project that I was doing, but if you're not a wire wrapper, if you don't have wire just laying around your house, you don't have to make these elements with wire. You can use wood, you can use clay, really anything that you find that works to make this door look like a door. If it works for that, use it. But I'm gonna do wire. So what I have is 3 pieces of 20 gauge wire, and I'm gonna go ahead and straighten those out with my nylon pliers. And once those are nice and straight, I'm going to go ahead and take some 22 gauge half round wire, and I'm going to just wrap it around these 3 wires until I feel they're long enough for my handle. Once I've wrapped about 12 times, I'm going to go ahead and hold it next to my holes that I drilled and just check the length there. I think I'm going to go ahead and coil it just a couple more times. And now I'm just going to go ahead and start bending my handle to fit the holes where I drilled into my door. And so that is going to be my handle. And so I'm going to start spreading these wires out and just adjusting them for when I'm going to be ready to actually put them through those little holes, and just checking to make sure that they fit and it looks okay. And I'm going to move on to the little braces for my door. And this is 14 gauge copper wire, and I just cut it to fit between my doorposts there. And I didn't cut them quite the same length as the door because I'm going to hammer these out. And when you hammer wire, of course, it flattens and it spreads out a little bit. So I did leave myself just a little bit of room with these when I cut them to make sure that they'll fit right once they're all hammered. And I went ahead and hammered these out really well. And I'm sorry about the camera, guys. I am a total noob and I don't have any kind of studio setup. So I pretty much just lay my phone in one of my desk organizers and film myself that way for now. So I apologize about the shakiness of the camera when I'm hammering, but there's nothing I can really do about that. And here's what these are going to look like once they're all flattened out. They do get a little crooked when you hammer them, so I'm going to go ahead and work a little bit here to straighten them out, mess around with them with my fingers a little bit. I'll pull out my nylon pliers and give them a little tweak here and there just to make sure they're nice and straight. And I'm going to go ahead and see how these fit on my door here. And that is a perfectly snug fit. It's going to look great. So now I'm going to assemble my little braces for my door. And I'm going to tape them together with a little of this blue painter's tape. And once I have them all flat against each other, I'm just going to go ahead and wrap some of that 22 gauge half round wire around each end of these just a few times. I put these back on my anvil and hammered them out just a few times just to get them all kind of in line with each other. That's just really going to keep them straight and flat and keep them looking nice on my door. And then I went ahead and just cleaned up these little wires on the end and did the same with my other brace. So I wanted my wire elements to be nice and dark, so I went ahead and oxidized them. Once I had them nice and oxidized and polished, now I'm going to go ahead and put my handle in through those little holes that I drilled earlier. And I'm just going to go ahead and do some little curlicues to finish this off. And there is my little door handle. I think it looks really cute, nice and sturdy. And now I'm going to put my little brace pieces on. And just to make sure that I'm keeping these in the place that I want them, I'm going to go ahead and draw a little line for myself to put my glue. And I'm going to be using just a few drops of the Gorilla Glue. Not too much because you don't want that glue to seep out. And my door is complete and ready for our red paint. So I'm using the barn red color of this Apple Barrel brand acrylic paint. I have this awesome little party cup that I got at the Dollar Tree. It's really great for acrylic paints. And I'm just going to go ahead and take a Dollar Tree paintbrush and try to make this look like someone put on my doorpost with hyssop. Now I'm going to go ahead and start making my base, and I'm going to use these tumbling tower blocks as well as this little decorative box from the Dollar Tree. I'm just going to rip the sides off, and I'll be using those for the sides of my base, and you'll see how I do that in a minute. So I'm just going to start with the center of my base with some of these tumbling tower blocks, and I'm just going to shape them all together, and then I'm going to get them glued together. And now I'm just going to take these pieces from that decorative box and go ahead and make the edges of my base. I just used the blocks that I already glued together to measure how long I would want these to be. And I just started with a little notch from my saw And then I was actually able to finish the rest of this with just cutting with scissors. And then I gave each of these a nice little sanding. And anytime that I needed to take a little bit of length off, I just went ahead and used my sandpaper instead of trying to cut anymore. By this time, I actually managed to get myself some of that wood glue. So I did use wood glue and super glue for this. Again, I used the super glue because I wanted this to dry really fast. You can just use wood glue if you prefer, or even a different kind of glue entirely. And I'm just finishing up the last two pieces of the base. I did go ahead and stain this afterwards. Like I said before, you will want to stain all of these pieces before you glue them together, but I think the base still came out looking decent. I did not film myself staining it. Sorry guys, but you'll have to refer to the first video of me staining. So here's the final product. I had my mom do a wood burning of this Bible verse in here for me. Specifically, that's the verse from the Septuagint translation. If you're going to go look it up on Bible Hub, make sure you check out the Septuagint translation. That is all about the Lord regathering us for the feast of the Passover at his coming. So to display this on my shelf, I really wanted to do a parting of the Red Sea theme. So I got some of these glass and acrylic accents from the Dollar Tree. I pulled out the blue and the clear glass accents and just went ahead and piled them on both sides of my door in the shelf. All right, and here is my finished display. I think it's really cute. I'm super excited about it. And again, you can totally personalize this project. You can make it kid-friendly. I just wanted to show you guys what I'm doing for my Passover decor. And if you stay tuned, I will be uploading part 2 of this tutorial where I will show you how to make displays for the other 2 parts of this shelf. So thanks so much for joining me today, guys. Let me know what you thought of this project in the comments. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get notified every time I upload a new tutorial. And I just want to end by saying have a fantastic day, and remember to love your neighbor and treat others as you want to be treated, for this is the law and the prophets. God bless you guys, and I hope to see you in the next video.